Hey everyone, Brian here from Vintage Classic Specialist. Happy Monday, everyone. Time for another episode of Day in the Life of Vintage Classic Specialist. So, today lots going on as usual here in our little VW restoration shop. So, why don't we go ahead and hop right in and talk about what happened here. So, first thing this morning, I went ahead and had Rafa take care of few last items on this 63 Deluxe bus here. If you follow the channel, you know that I took it on its first road test on, let's see, when was that? Saturday. Went really well. So yeah, at this point, the bus is basically done other than just putting some more confidence miles, as I like to call them, on it to make sure that it's, reliable and doing everything it's supposed to. But yeah, if you saw the video of me driving it the other day, you notice that the steering wheel could not have possibly been aimed more incorrectly. Going down the road straight, it was basically at like 90 degrees. In other words, the spokes, which are supposed to be, horizontal to you when you're driving, were at a 90 degree. But, that's usually one of the last things we do on a bus is straighten out the steering and then tighten all that down underneath there. Unlike on a Beetle, on these buses, the steering wheel essentially just goes onto the steering shaft in one location. There's a Woodruff key on there. So unlike a Beetle where there's like a spline, a male and female spline where you can fine tune the position of the steering wheel, no such thing on a bus. The bus steering wheel goes at one orientation and one orientation only relative to the steering shaft. And then the way you adjust the steering wheel straight is by changing the length of the drag arm, which goes from the steering box, which is located about there, to a big sort of L-shaped pivot there that in turn pulls and pushes on the tie rod. So yeah, you got to basically the drag link has a tie rod type end on one end where you can, shorten and lengthen that length. That's how you straighten the steering wheel out. Kind of a pain in the ass on these. Compared to other cars where you can just sort of pop the steering wheel off and, move it a tooth or two or whatever. On these, yeah, you got to monkey around there. So anyway, long story short, Rafa took it and drove it up and down the parking lot a few times. And it's usually a little bit of trial and error. You get where you think it's really close and then you drive the car in a straight line and, usually you're off by a couple degrees or whatever. So you go and you lengthen or you shorten that drag link a little. Yeah, it usually takes 2 or 3 times to get it spot on. And then once that's on and now all the drag length and all that stuff is, drag link and everything is tightened, at that point, that is when the pedal cover, suspension cover, whatever you want to call it, goes on. So see all that big gray piece of sheet metal there covers all that stuff. So that's like one of the last things we do on these cars is once they're drivable, is go ahead and straighten out that steering wheel, and then this cover goes on. The other thing he did was I think it was the clutch pedal needed a little adjustment. It was squeaking against the hole that it goes through on the body. So he was able to adjust that a little bit, get that taken care of. I feel like there might have been some other minor thing that he did, but pretty much that's it. So yeah, I'm probably going to just start taking this thing on increasingly long drives here over the course of this week, I suppose. And have no reason to doubt that all won't go well. And then the owner can send for transport to pick it up. Again, he lives in the Seattle area, so he's going to have it shipped back up there rather than drive it up. That would be quite an adventure. But anyway, yeah, so he'll have it shipped back up. So very cool, very excited for him that there is light at the end of the tunnel here. As I think I mentioned before, he's had this bus for, 30 years or something like that, and has been collecting parts for it for many years, and kind of a very long journey for him with this bus. So finally, he's going to get to drive this puppy and enjoy it like it was meant to be. So very cool, very excited for him. So that was how Rafa started his day. From there, he worked on the Ghia, which I'm not going to show you, and I'll come back to that. On on the so on Karmann Ghias, you know, there aren't fenders in the way there are on a Beetle that you can pull out of the way if you need to remove the torsion bars. So they have a like a round axis cover where you pull that off and then the torsion bars can slide out. Anyway, those holes were a little funky shaped. So our paint and body guy kind of like trusts Rafa's very steady hand for like grinding stuff like that. So Rafa spent a little bit of time kind of grinding those holes, getting them a little bit more circular on the 68 Ghia. And then pretty much Rene, he went ahead and sanded down with, I don't know, like maybe 600 grit, the whole 68 Ghia. He found some very minor imperfections, which he, you know, glazed over and resanded and stuff like that. The car then got its paint job. However, he hasn't done the clear yet. So I'm going to wait till tomorrow when the car gets its full clear coat to show it to you guys. Because right now it kind of looks like it did the other day. It is a two-stage paint job, so the paint is just kind of dull. But tomorrow, for sure, that car is getting its clear coat, clear coats, plural. And hopefully I will be showing you guys that at the end of tomorrow when I film the day in the life episode. So anyway, that was Rene's day and a little bit of Rafa's day fixing those holes. The very last part of Rafa's day, he turned to the tennis ball, as we like to call it here, for obvious reasons. And he had previously restored and installed the rear seat belts, which you can see there, lap belts. And so today he turned his attention to the front seat belts. So went ahead and got those all cleaned up and touched up the text on them. And yeah, got them all snazzied up and installed. So yeah, they're looking incredible. They're of course original to the car, and they seem to work pretty well given their age. I hope I work that well when I'm, well, actually, no, that didn't make any sense. I'm older than this car. Holy cow. So this car is a 1974 model year. I'm a 71. So never mind. I'm older than this car. That's kind of weird to think about. Anyway, but yeah, so he just a little bit at the end of the day he spent on those seat belts there. And I think he actually started putting together the retro sound radio for this car. I don't know where it is. There is sort of like some assembly required on those to put the radios together because they are very modular. So yeah, he worked a little bit on that too. So probably have more to show you in terms of that tomorrow. So that was Mr. Rafa's day. For me, I spent most of the day installing the door windows on this puppy here, this 67 Beetle. So this door is pretty much done. I do have to still put on the moisture barrier here on the inside before I reinstall the door panel. But yeah, this side's done, got it all built. The other side I didn't quite finish because, as I noticed when I was taking it apart, that his lift channel, so this is the thing that attaches to the regulator, the window glass sits in it and rolls up and down. So it was loose. It wasn't really attached very firmly to the window, which can be problematic because when that happens and you go to roll the window down, sometimes the lift channel will go down and the window will stay put, and then it's a big mess. So anyway, I pulled this off of the window glass and it's pretty much rusted completely through. There's like maybe an inch on each side that's still intact. So that's not good. I'm not going to reuse that. So luckily, Wolfsburg West to the rescue. They do make reproductions of these. So I ordered one, and then the new rubber seal that goes in here that holds the glass. So that's coming tomorrow. I'll put that on the window glass and then finish up the other window. The other thing that I had to do, which I didn't necessarily expect, was, I can't really show you on that side because it's such a tight fit in there. On one side, let's see, I don't remember which. I think on that side, the vent window to glass seal was actually in really good shape, so I just left it alone. There's no point in replacing them if they're fine. because it is kind of a time-consuming process. So, trying to save the customer a few bucks on something that's not really needed. However, on this side, the glass to frame seal here for the vent wing was totally loose and like falling apart, and the window pretty much just like pulled right out. So this side I had to press in a new seal here. It's kind of a process you have to go through, and we do have tooling to help press the glass into there, and then you've got to trim the seals. It's kind of a pain in the ass. Not something that I really enjoy doing all that much, but nonetheless. And then put in the seals, and then re-rivet the windows to their outer frames and stuff like that. So yeah, pretty much both doors are done-ish, with the exception of that one getting the lift channel and window stuck together, and then I still need to put on the inner scraper, and then both sides will get moisture barrier and door panels, and I think that'll take care of the sort of interior and windows of this car. She does also want a tune-up, so I'll take care of that. She wants a retro sound radio, so I'll take care of that. And her windshield wipers don't work. So it's still got a decent little list of things to do on this car, but kind of the big items were really the upholstery that we did, so carpet and headliner, and then the windows. So worked on that for a good portion of the day, and then kind of at the end of the day, I was tired of windows, so turned my attention to this beauty here, this one family 64 Beetle. And I had put on the front beam and the front arms. So today I went ahead and started installing the spindle assemblies. So I had Brian Roth over at Roth Vintage replace the link pin. So the link pins are the ones that go this way. King pin's the big fat one on this axis. So anyway, he went ahead and rebuilt those for me. He's got the tooling and the press and everything, which we don't, so usually have him do that. And then I went ahead and took the measurements. It's also kind of a process to put these together. You got to take some very careful measurements, and then based on those measurements, you put a different number of shims inside and outside, top and bottom, and it's not really hard. You just got to kind of pay attention and take your time to make sure that it's done well. If you don't do it right, as far as the shims and stuff are concerned, what would happen would be that the suspension could actually bind in here and not articulate freely like it's supposed to. So one of those things you just got to pay attention and make sure you do it right, as far as, again, those shims, and you don't over tighten the link pins, which is a mistake some people make. Some people don't tighten them enough, and then the assembly ends up kind of sloppy. So it's a bit finicky, but it's not terrible. But anyway, finish this side. It's all together, except I have to tighten the nuts on the link pin pinch bolts. And this side, pretty much what I always do is I take the measurements of, basically you're measuring the offset between the faces of these arms. You look up on a table how many shims you need inside and outside. So usually what I do is I check out that table, I see what the number of shims are, and then I put everything together dry without grease. And usually then what I'll do is I'll tighten the link pin on, say, the bottom, and then I'll slowly start tightening the link pin on the top, and I'll look for any movement in the link pin carrier, meaning like tilting this way, because basically if the shims are, say, perfect, and you tighten one side up and then you tighten the other side up, you shouldn't really see any movement in this direction. Like, for example, if you tighten the bottom one and then you go and tighten the top one, you shouldn't see it sort of move in that direction. So I always do a dry fit and test everything like that. And, sometimes it's off a little bit. So sometimes I'll take the measurements, again, very carefully, put everything together, and then do the dry fit and the test. And sometimes I need to swap a shim to get it, perfect, essentially, as far as, everything being where it needs to be. But in this case, very, very much textbook. Took the measurements, put them together, dry fit, tested, everything works great. So this side is all ready now. I pretty much have the shims all counted out here, and I've started greasing them and putting them on the link pin carriers, and so this will go together in a few minutes in the morning, this side here. And then I need to get a disc brake kit on order for this one. But that was kind of the end of my day here working on this one. So guys, I think that is it for today. So hopefully tomorrow I will be showing you the 68 Karmann Ghia in its full glorious paint job. Well, again, minus doors and front and back lids. But yeah, hopefully tomorrow you'll be seeing that. So please tune in tomorrow for that. And tune in tomorrow for whatever else we do on whatever other car we work on. So thank you guys again for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.